Well, an interesting conversation arose today that we have to get to. Andrew Mason, Cecil Lammy, Orange and Blue today, because the Broncos have a Bo Nix rookie contract that goes 4 more years, Mace. And Sean Payton said, you're going to get some of these playoff games at home. That means winning the division. Will that happen in the next 4 years?
So by 4 years, you're actually going beyond the rookie contract. You're going with the 5th-year option, correct?
Yes. Yep.
So you're adding another year to that. So, yeah, the Broncos will win the division in the next 4 seasons. Not saying they're going to win it more than once, but they're well positioned to take advantage of a year in which Kansas City is a little bit off. Maybe they have some injuries. Maybe Patrick Mahomes misses a month and a half. I don't think the Broncos are ever going to have hegemony in the AFC West as long as Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are together. But certainly, if Reid decides to retire at some point, certainly if it's a first year without Travis Kelce, which could be next season, or a year in which Patrick Mahomes battles some injuries, there are possibilities for the Chiefs being just a little bit off. And that's where the Broncos are going to have to take advantage. It'll be basically whoever is better positioned that year, the Broncos or the Chargers. And, the Chargers swept the Broncos, both games decided by a touchdown. I think the Broncos can close that gap a little bit and be equal to the Chargers next year. So really, I'm basically saying that year the Chiefs are off, it's a 50-50 coin flip, and I'll say the Broncos win it and do get a division during the first contract plus the 5th-year option of Bo Nix.
I like the sound of that, and we got a lot to get to because as the talent grows on this team and around Bo Nix, and I love that this offseason, Mace, is really about what do you need, Bo? Last year it was like, what do you need, Sean? And that was a quarterback. But now that they have the quarterback, Mace, they can just go shopping almost like a fantasy football draft and say, here you go, Bo.
So when you say, what do you need, Bo, what do you think Bo's answer to that would be?
Weapons, running game. Right. And it's Sean Payton's words. It's not my words, but hey, really help a young quarterback. He said rookie, but young quarterback is a ground game. They don't have one right now. And you should be able to know fairly immediately, other than Thomas Jones, and you and I could go down a Thomas Jones rabbit hole because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers turned his career around. But other than that guy, I really can't think of many backs that took some time to get going. Usually when they come in, And, I think with the Broncos backfield, we know, and it's not good enough.
Well, interesting. Actually, another back who was a little bit slow to get going was Derrick Henry, believe it or not.
That would be tough for people to believe, for sure, with the way that Henry plays today. And for me, with them back then, Mace, they would go half the year and not use Derrick Henry, and then they'd get to like week 8, and then Tennessee would be like, hey, how about that big guy? And then they'd use him, and it would work.
It was really back when Mike Mularkey was coaching them. They didn't really have a good feel for how to maximize Derrick Henry. 2016, 2017, those years he had 490 yards his rookie season. He had 744 in year 2. And then Mike Vrabel came in, and Vrabel got it. Said, okay, we've got to feed this guy. Feed him as often as possible. And that's where the 1,000-yard season started to come in earnest for Derrick Henry. But yeah, it's interesting because you say, we didn't quite know. No, you knew Derrick Henry could be good, but it's really interesting to see like how long it took the Titans to accept that. Okay, you know what? We can lean on him. But yeah, with rare exceptions, pretty quickly. And I think even by the end of year 2, you knew Derrick Henry really had something. But I think I get the direction you're going, because what you're saying is, even though the Broncos didn't really give Audric Estime as many shots as perhaps Sean Payton would keep saying they should,
right?
What you're saying is they kind of know. Is that the gist of your thinking?
That's the gist of my thinking. And I will say that I don't know, but you and I have been around enough football to know, like, usually a running back, which translates better from the college game to the pro game, then receivers, then tight ends, then quarterbacks. Like a runner will come in and keep doing the things he did in college. And it's not that Estime wasn't a great college back, but the pro jump is so much different. So I think we're kind of on a track that means Estime is a 2-down banger and a part-time player, not someone you build your running game around.
So, okay. So then you're putting together this room. Who's in the room next year, like for next season? Like how many running backs do the Broncos have on their 53 in week 1?
In week 1, I'd say it's 3.
Who are they?
Jaleel.
Okay.
As your change of pace. A rookie to be named later.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps Estime. It'll be an Estime versus Blake Watson conversation next year.
Yeah. Which is interesting to kind of go back to that because they were pretty close to each other in the Broncos evaluations. Different skill sets,
yes.
But if Estime had gone off the board, Blake Watson may well have been the pick right there around 5.
Yep.
So that's interesting. And some of it you'd like to have both, because the thing with Estime is, depending on the rookie you select, he's still probably the best equipped to come in and be that primary RB1 in terms of what his skill set is, because you do want somebody who can be a bit of a banger there. But Watson's ceiling as a 3rd down pass catcher may be too intriguing. And we saw the glimpse of that. Like that first drive against the Chargers, it wasn't just Audric Estime as the power back. It was also the glimpse of Blake Watson coming out of the backfield. Now, I guess the other interesting conversation becomes, what if Blake Watson slides into the change of pace role? And what does that mean for Jaleel McLaughlin? And I think Jaleel, he does have some traits in terms of quickness and burst that Audric Estime and Blake Watson don't quite possess. I mean, and with Jaleel, you get him in space, it can be electric. It was actually interesting when I asked Jaleel also what he wanted to improve on. I asked him this on Monday, and he said it's about getting more yardage after contact, or like as he said to me, making that safety miss.
I like it.
Like he's basically saying some of the things that you and I have said about him this year in terms of he's got to be able to maximize those opportunities and not go down so quick.
I love what Mike brings up here, Mace, because it goes into our conversation of how do you win the division. To me, that's running the ball. We'll continue that conversation. But Mike says that this year proves the teams with good running backs are moving up in the playoffs. If we look at the remaining teams, they can run the ball. And I think in the postseason, it's about stopping the run, running the ball. Broncos couldn't do either against the Bills. Next year, just like they went out and got JFM and Malcolm Roach, and I know, the Bills game, it didn't work. But like, they knew what they needed to get, and they got it. I really believe this offseason, whether it's Devin Neal in the 3rd round or Ashton Genty in the 1st, they will get a running back that they can say, here's 15 to 20 touches. Notice how I don't say carries.
Yes.
I'd love carries. But like, here's 15 to 20 touches, kid. Go get it. And the way these teams are left in the postseason, Mace, they can all run the ball.
Well, think about like the first play of the game on Sunday. There's a big hole, and Javonte Williams gets 5 yards. It was a very well-developed play. O-line did its job up front. Again, going back to what we often talk about with their run block win rate. Respectfully to Javonte Williams, how many yards does a Marion Hampton or Devin Neal get on that play?
15?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing. The angle I had, the Buffalo Bills press box is kind of corner to end zone, so I like that. If I sat with an end zone angle about 1 or 2 levels up in the stadium, any game, I'd be pretty happy, because I've like midway up end zone, you really see all the holes develop really well. That's the perfect angle for me to watch a game.
Yeah,
and that's the thing that jumped out to me when I was watching from that angle is like there was that run. Javonte got 3 yards on a run on the second series when the Broncos went went 3 and out, right? He had a 2-yard run there on the third series. That series that began with Bidet going for 7, which was, a good start to that drive, that third series of the game, the one that ended up including the fake punt. And this is another thing with Bidet, and Bidet is going to be in the conversation too.
Sure.
Tyler Bidet had that 7-yard run, and then is only 1 carry for 1 yard the rest of the game. Like, okay, let's get him some more opportunities here, right? It was, I feel like Sean Payton, and he sort of addressed this, what he says, it's kind of hard to get 3 guys their opportunities.
Yep.
I feel like that's something that Sean really struggles with, is 3. And even 2 is rough. He does need an RB1. He thought Javonte Williams could be that RB1 this year. Unfortunately, what he did in training camp in the preseason after he lost the weight during the interregnum between minicamp and training camp didn't take to when it counted. It's unfortunate. It's just how it goes. So I actually do wonder how things would have gone for the Broncos running back core this year and what they might have done and how they might have distributed carries if Javonte had not lost the weight. Because if he hadn't, it's fair to assume he might not have even made the team. And then what would the Broncos pivot have been? Would it have been more Estime right away? Would it have been kind of forcing Blake Watson out there sooner? Or would it have even been bringing somebody else, right? Especially if I imagine they would have fed Tyler Bidet more early. And but let's say he still gets hurt. You would have had to go looking for solutions. Maybe it's a running back coming in at the trade deadline. So it's a fascinating what if. Maybe it's not a what if that would carry an entire Orange and Blue Today show, but it's interesting to think about what might have happened if Javonte had not followed his coach's instructions to drop the weight.
They would have kept Samaje. The 2 things working against him was that Estime was banged up and that Blake Watson started on the NFI. Yeah. So maybe it was Bidet. Let's just talk about that first carry, and we'll continue this conversation about how do you win the AFC West in Bo's rookie deal. Find a running back. But that first carry, Mace, which you and I saw, I'm not going to say Mack truck. You know what I mean? You could drove a Mack truck through it, but, nice sized SUV. And what would Bidet have done? If Bidet had just started, and I really thought Sean was going to do that. If that's Bidet, that's not a 5-yard play.
What if it's a 10-yard play right out of the blocks? Now, yeah, they scored on the first drive, so I think we're kind of picking nits as far as the result of that first drive, but I don't think we're picking nits when you talk about what the game flow would have been. And if you'd started Bidet and if he'd had that first big run right away, galloping through that hole and moving the chains, Sean might have been more inclined to give him the ball and feed him the rock more often as the game progressed. And then it might have been a different outcome. I mean, maybe not a different outcome in win-loss, but I don't think we would have been talking about 31-7 if they'd gotten Bidet going early. I think we would have talked about a game that perhaps the Broncos could have had some lengthier drives and kept Buffalo's offense off the field a little bit more. And maybe instead of 31-7, you're talking about 24-13, 24-16, something like that. Something where you're thinking, boy, then you really are thinking, man, if Lutz had made that field goal at the end of the first half, and you're thinking of like one or two things instead of thinking, oh man, this team is probably still a ways off from competing with the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens of the world.
Yep. The let's play would have meant more, and the Ty Johnson touchdown would have meant more. You ran the ball, you win time of possession. And that's the other thing with, how do you win the AFC West? You got to take care of your own division. You mentioned the Chargers sweeping you, and they essentially beat Kansas City twice. I know the blocked field goal, etc. So you feel like you can hang with the Chiefs, and that's really the key right there, because you mentioned the 50-50 coin flip. How long does Andy Reid want to keep coaching? And with Pat Mahomes, he should just keep it up, right? Yeah. And then the Travis Kelce conversation, it's like Father Time will win someday. So when Travis Kelce, and he may retire when he can still play. Some guys just do that. But when Kelce is gone, as much as I love Jared Wiley, or you and I appreciate Noah Gray, or dare I say they move up in this draft for a certain Penn State tight end, You know what I mean? Like that's also part. I just gave you some chills right there.
Don't you be putting that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
Don't you do it. Like it's possible, and it's Brett Veach. I consider him one of the best GMs in the league, but if Kansas City takes a stumble, but they've been down and they've won 2 Super Bowls. They've been without Tyreek Hill. They keep winning Super Bowls, and the combination is Reed, Mahomes, and Kelce. And then I'll mention Chris Jones as well. Chris Jones, a fantastic player, but 2016 was a long time ago.
Well, what's fascinating, as dynamic as Tyreek Hill is, I think what we all figured out was the secret sauce that was actually really helping that thing go and the train stay on the tracks was Travis Kelce. And with Kelce, his per catch average this year was the lowest of his career, 8.5.
Is that a sign for you?
It's a sign, but here's another thing that I think is interesting is his success rate is still north of 60%. And part of that is, even though he's not as dynamic a target downfield, there is still that preternatural connection the two possess, where Mahomes, he's moving, he's beyond structure, he's outside the pocket, and Kelce just knows where to find that gap in coverage, squat there. Mahomes finds him. Like on 3rd and 5, they get 7. That's why you look at Travis Kelce and his first down rate still really high, even though he's not as dynamic down the field, is he's getting a lot of those third and intermediates with those, sometimes go 3 yards, go 3 yards, turn, boom, on 3rd and 2, you move the chains. They're on another level communication wise. So even though Travis Kelce isn't peak Kelce, he's not 2020 Kelce, he's still incredibly vital for that offense. And when they lose him, they're going to take a hit, and they're going to take a hit because they're going to lose that special connection that takes years to find. I mean, Kelce may not be as dynamic as he once was, but you could argue that his connection with Mahomes is stronger than it ever has been in terms of the two knowing where each needs to be to move the chains and keep the train on the tracks and stay on schedule. Keep the line moving, as they say in baseball. That's kind of what they do together. And that's another thing with the Chiefs is that's a team that they sustain drives. They just do it in a different way than a lot of other teams.
Right. And they'll continue to do just that. And if it's not moving up for your guy, Tyler Warren, it may be, and get ready for this name, everybody, Harold Fannin, in terms of receiving tight ends from Bowling Green, might be the best of the bunch. And we'll see him at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
So not above Warren. Warren will be a top 10 pick. So it might be too rich for Kansas City, depending on where they end. And I don't think they would move up the 16 spots like they did for Pat Mahomes. But this is a conversation in this tight end class. They're going to try to find a Kelce replacement, depending on what they think of Jared Wiley's injury. He tore his knee, October, whatever that was.
Well, if you don't want to trade up for Tyler Warren, shouldn't Harold Fannin be on the Broncos' radar as well, even though probably not going to contribute much as a blocker? He's listed at 230 pounds. I'm curious to see what his weigh-in is going to be down in Mobile. But this guy, I mean, he's your classic be a big slot, sort of the, Evan Engram on steroids, I'd say. And I don't mean steroids in terms of size. I mean steroids in terms of production.
Yes.
Yeah. This guy, pretty incredible, pretty dynamic target out there as well.
Yep.
The thing is, I think to cross off tight end and running back properly in the way you really want to do it, you're probably going to have to do both in the first or second round. The question is, would Harold Fannin be there 2/3 of the way through the second round? That may
depends on what happens at the Senior Bowl.
Bingo. I was just starting that sentence. It depends what he does, because it's going to, is Tyler Warren going to Mobile? Has he announced that yet or no?
I haven't seen it yet, but I know you will definitely be excited about that. We both should be, and Broncos fans should be. But that's one of those things. If he does go to the Senior Bowl,
Yeah, Jim Nagy keeps talking about him. That's why I was wondering.
Oh, okay. And if he does go to Senior Bowl, Macy's top 10. I mean, I already hear from people he's top 10 right now.
Yeah.
Which means he's top 10. You have a much better chance. And I heard it. Phone starts buzzing as soon as the Broncos get beat from people. And I had heard for the first time, and maybe it's not the first it was out there, but for me personally, from NFL people, I heard that Genty would be after Warren. Warren would go much higher than Genty.
It's scarcity of skill set.
Yep. And that's where Fannin gets the Bowers bump.
Yes.
And he's the most like Bowers because he's just a receiver.
Yeah. Is that enough for Sean Payton? That's the question. And I would argue the fact that Sean Payton had a lot of success with Jimmy Graham would say, yeah, that could be enough if you're a dynamic enough target.
Yes.
That's the key part of the equation. If you're dynamic enough, then absolutely. And the thing is, though, you have to be dynamic enough for it to overcome the fact that when you're out there, you're not counting on it as a blocker. It's what you always say about declaration of intent. If Harold Fannin is in the game as a rookie, you're probably not asking Harold Fannin to block.
Yeah.
Tyler Warren, a bit sturdier in that regard, you are asking him to block. I'd say with Warren, one of the reasons why he's going to go high, it's similar to TJ Hawkinson, is that, and I think his arc might be a lot like Hawkinson, who's been pretty good. Not Brock Bowers in terms of receiving production, but he's been pretty good as an all-around tight end. Remember the reason why Hawkinson went ahead of Noah Fant back in 2019? It's because Hawkinson blocked better.
Yep.
More complete. Noah Fant, you could argue, was more dynamic coming into the draft process, but the Broncos were able to trade down and get him at 20 because he was far less refined as a blocker than Hawkinson. I think that's still the case 6 seasons down the line.
Yeah. And I love this one from Wes in our chat room because this reminds me of what Ozzie would do. 2 tight ends. Remember Dennis Pitta and Ed Dixon? And then Mark Andrews and who was the baseball kid? Hayden Hurst. They always pick 2.
Hayden Hurst went first.
Yes. And it's the second guy that works out because I believe Dixon went before Pitta. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And I believe we saw both at the Senior Bowl. But it's like, okay, could you take 2 tight ends? Mace, I think the need is there. The need is there. And Nate Atkins will make this team. He does everything. Adam Troutman will make this team. He does everything. Lucas Kroll will not. I'm already ready for the social networking beating that'll take when Lucas Kroll gets cut. But like you need to find tight end. And if they took 2, brother, I wouldn't bat an eye at all.
Wouldn't bat an eye either. Think, one in the first 2 rounds and one they don't have a round 5 pick, so it'd be round 6, but you could take those. You could take a couple of 6th-round picks and move up to round 5. And certainly if they like somebody enough, they'll sacrifice future draft capital, much as it would drive George Payton bonkers to do it. Just like they sacrificed future capital to get Riley Moss back in 2023. They'll do it.
Yeah, he'll do it, and they'll find the playmakers. Notice how, and we'll get to the Sean Payton comments here in just a little bit, but you and I get a ton of questions. Running back, tight end, we already know, right? How do the Broncos win the AFC West during Bo Nix's rookie contract? Get a better ground game, get some tight end help. I get a ton of wide receiver questions, and I'm less fired up about receivers based on the maturation of Marvin Mims. I'm not saying Troy Franklin would do that, but just these young receivers, I don't know if people are sleeping on them or if they want the T. Higgins sexiness. I just say go get Chris Godwin. If you're going to get a veteran, even coming off injury, I would way rather have Chris Godwin because T. Higgins gets hurt all the time and you're going to have to pay him $25 million a year. So for me, I kind of like these young receivers maybe more than other Broncos fans, Mace.
Well, don't forget on Chris Godwin, he's not only coming off the injury, but he's, going, believe it or not, it happens quickly. This is going to be Chris Godwin's 9th season in the league.
Whew.
Yeah, happens fast. Remember when we were talking about him in the 2017 draft, because, of course, you talk about Broncos draft misses of the latter Elway years. The next wide receiver off the board after Carlos Henderson was Chris Godwin. It hurts a bit.
Stings the nostrils.
Stings the nostrils. That's not good. But because he's going into his 9th year, 3rd contract, coming off an ACL, I think there'd be better value. If you were going to add somebody to the room, I think Godwin would make sense from an overall cap management perspective, and even a skill set perspective than T. Higgins. So that's going to be something to watch, because as you saw the Bucs find some other options like McMillan down the stretch there without Godwin, you kind of started seeing a glimpse of their core without a receiving core without him. So I could get behind that, the Chris Godwin addition, if the Broncos did go into free agency. And it actually might make more sense. Sean Payton, historically, he'll have receiving talent, but in terms of their overall management of the roster and the cap, not always a team, New Orleans, that had premium money going to wide receiver.
Nope.
He's more likely to put premium investment in the offensive line, which he certainly has done, because you have 4 significant contracts among your 5 starters up front.
Yeah. Sean Payton builds from the inside. He gets him his quarterback. He gets a running back. Note there. Edward asks, and I don't know how much you want to tease. We have a whole A.T. Perry show, but Edward says, what is A.T. Perry's role? If we're talking receiver, not only do you and I like the young guys, and maybe Franklin hits, and Mims can take another step. That's the crazy thing about Marvin Mims. We haven't seen the best from him. But A.T. Perry, and I know some people said, I don't want to hear about the Lucas Krolls, and I don't want to hear about the A.T. Perrys. I get that.
And watching
but knowing what we know, A.T. Perry certainly needs to be in this conversation.
Yeah, that's if you don't want to hear about the guys that are, rising prospects and, we're learning about them, we'll see where they go. This is not the show for you. This is where we talk about 7th round picks.
Because we know, we can see what these guys can do, and A.T. Perry can do quite a bit. Here's
how I would view it. I'll make a baseball analogy here, because I like to make baseball references. Think of the Broncos' young receivers, and I'm talking about Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims Jr., Devon Vele, and A.T. Perry. Think of it as, if you're in baseball, you've got 4 really good pitching prospects at high A or double A. Now, with pitchers, if you have 4 prospects and 2 of them hit, you're happy. Like sometimes it's, if one of them hits, you're really happy. And I think that's sort of the way to view that quartet of young receivers, that not everyone's going to hit long term, but if you find 2 guys from those 4 who are productive receivers in your top 3, top 4 receivers over the course of the next few years, then I think you've got something. So I would even say and it might even be like 2.5, because maybe Marvin Mims Jr., we're measuring his success as much on special teams, where he's an all-pro as it is as a receiver. So you've got Mims in kind of that hybrid, not quite a joker, but in the club role, as Sean Payton would say. And then between Vele, Franklin, and Perry, do you find 1 keeper? Do you find 2 keepers? Not all of them are going to be there, but Perry has just as much of a chance as Vele and Franklin going into this year. Yes, he's got a chance to impress. And certainly if you look at what he did with the Saints as a rookie before they fired Pete Carmichael and he fell out of favor with the new offensive coaching staff down there, 4 touchdowns and 12 receptions, a dynamic downfield target. Frankly, that's the sort of thing the Broncos could use. So do not sleep on A.T. Perry. Maybe you want to ignore the guys who are on the practice squad. That's fine. I would say don't sleep on him at all. And in terms of at tight end as well, and in terms of the back end of how that position group is constructed, don't sleep on Thomas Yasmin, the converted rugby player, although it may be another year on the practice squad for him. But They were very quick. They were very quick to bring him back and kept him around. They want to see where his athleticism and his rugby background that was honed there can do. They want to see where that can go.
We will tell you what we know from A.T. Perry. Hell, we'll play the clip in our Perry show. But when you all out there know what we know, you're going to be excited. So I'll just put a pin in that one.
I think it's fun to keep teasing this, actually.
Yeah. We'll get it there. But it's about timing. We still got a lot of stuff going on. You're probably going to hear from George Payton and Sean Payton and Greg Penner maybe tomorrow and Thursday combined. Yeah. So we got a lot. We'll time it out. We'll get you guys going. Do you want to save this is a show topic, but I'll ask you, Mace, as we sit here at 30 minutes. You want to save our Bo Sean stuff for tomorrow, or how do you? Again, we got a lot of stuff here. So what would you like to do? You want to spend the next 5 minutes talking about this, or should we stretch it out a little more on another show?
I think we're good. I think we can bring this back, but because this is also a larger something that Bo said at the end of his availability on Monday about Sean Payton and the relationship they have. It's very telling when you look at the arc of the last 2 years. And yes, there's the comparison to Sean Payton's relationship with Russell Wilson.
Yeah. So that'll be teased into tomorrow's show.
There's a contrast there. Compare and contrast.
By the way, our chat room, including our guy, Pot Stoner Degenerate Jason up there in Greeley, they want to know what kind of chips you like. Because they're having a great debate in the chat room. Like, what kind of potato chips does Mace like? I'm
not really a potato chip guy.
Wow.
The only kind of potato chips I really like are Zaps, which are, they make them down in New Orleans. They got like all sorts of like Cajun type flavors. I'm a tortilla chip guy. Through and through.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any favorites out there that I might be able to run to the store and get some?
Okay. My favorite ones right now are from 505 Southwestern, which does like green chili and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
They are the hint of hatch tortilla chips. So it's like just a little bit of like hatch chili type seasoning on them. And if you gave me a bag and I hadn't had anything to eat that day, that bag would be devoured. That's how good they are.
Yes. People said I was a Funyuns guy. Untrue. I am a popcorn but a caramel corn popcorn like combination, like cheddar popcorn with caramel corn in the same bag.
Yeah,
magnifique.
I didn't notice. What snacks did you go for in the Buffalo press box on Sunday?
I don't think when you had the Swedish fish. I didn't get anything. I think I stayed with the water. I did have the waffles though. Waffles were epic.
The waffles were awesome. The boneless wings were actually chicken nuggets. They're literally the size of chicken nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
But they were fine. They tasted good. But the waffles were tremendous. I did not like the quiche. It was too salty.
All right. So you get to the end of the show, we'll tell you, we'll tell you what we like.
But they had Reese's Pieces. Those were good too. Someone made fun of me for how I said Reese's Pieces. Apparently I said Reese's Pieces or something. I don't know. Who cares?
Yeah.
People are weird. But somehow that food, the Buffalo Bills press box food video, has been watched like 100,000 times or something like that. It's really strange.
Okay. All right. We'll make it happen on this show. It is Orange and Blue today. Again, lots of big stuff coming up for you here this off season. You're going to have your best draft coverage right here. Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl, Combine, owners meetings, etc. Right here, Orange and Blue today. We're super excited to talk about these prospects, to have our tight end versus running back debate. That's going to continue on. I'm going to stick with running back. You're going to stick with tight end because that's what we believe, Mace. We're not. This isn't radio. We're not doing ass crack and ball sack mayhem in the AM. Like we really believe this. I mean, we can if you want.
Well, no, but we're not. It's
genuine. We really believe this.
We're not taking a side just to have some BS manufactured debate. Okay.
Yeah.
Because part of it also is, I can't fake it very well. B, I don't want to have to go out into the world and try to defend something that I just said for bleeps and giggles as part of some, contrived debate / argument show. Like, no, what you hear from me, what you see from me is what I really believe. So there you go.
Authentic. You got my vote, Mace.
We're an authentic show. Yeah,
I like
not a lot of bull crap.
All right. Well, with that authenticity, we still need your help on YouTube to grow our channel. Mace, how can folks help us out?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you
never miss
vid. That's right. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammy saying OBT's BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.